Last night, someone broke into my house while I was sleeping. This morning, I discovered the security footage had been erased professionally, deliberately. I brought it to a tech shop. The technician looked at me with pity. "Sir, you need to leave here immediately." I looked at the screen. What I saw made my blood freeze. But I chose silence. I would gather all the evidence, and I would destroy them. It wouldn't take long, I would find everything. Thank you for being here. If this opening shook, you drop a comment. Would you trust family members with your house keys? Watch what happened when Franklin did, and what he discovered changed everything. Quick note, this is fictional storytelling, exploring meaningful themes about betrayal. Any resemblance to real people is coincidental. So, who was holding that key? I woke to a sound that didn't belong. 2:03 a.m. My eyes snapped open, not gradually, but instantly, the way your body knows something is wrong before your mind catches up. A scraping sound, metal on wood maybe, or something dragging across concrete. It came from somewhere outside toward the back of the house. I lay perfectly still in the darkness, listening. My bedroom, the one I used to share with Catherine, felt too big now, too empty. The same four walls we'd painted together 20 years ago. The same window where she used to stand in the mornings, drinking coffee and watching the birds. She'd been gone 2 years now. 2 years, 3 months, and 11 days. Not that I was counting. The sound came again. Closer this time. Definitely from the backyard. My heart hammered against my ribs. At 67 years old, after 40 years investigating insurance fraud, I'd learned to trust my instincts. And right now, every instinct I had was screaming that something was wrong. I reached for my phone on the nightstand, hands shaking slightly. The blue glow of the screen hurt my eyes in the darkness. 2:04 a.m. now. The house was silent except for the tick of Catherine's old clock and the hum of the refrigerator downstairs. Another sound. This time unmistakable footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Someone walking across my patio. Someone was in my backyard. I threw off the covers and stood the hardwood floor cold under my bare feet. My first instinct was to go downstairs to confront whoever was out there. But 40 years of investigation work had taught me another lesson: never walk into a situation blind. I moved to the window and carefully pulled back the edge of the curtain. My backyard stretched out in the darkness. The patio I'd built with Catherine, the fence we'd installed when Tyler was still in high school, the oak tree where we'd hung a tire swing 30 years ago. Everything looked normal. The motion sensor lights were off. Nothing moved in the shadows. But I knew what I'd heard. 6 months ago, my neighbor Russell Parker had insisted I install security cameras. "You can't be too careful these days, Frank," he'd said over coffee one morning. "Especially living alone. There've been break-ins 3 streets over." I'd resisted at first. Installing cameras felt like admitting I was vulnerable, that I couldn't take care of myself. But Russell had been persistent. And eventually, his wife Diane, my lawyer as it happened, had backed him up. "Just do it, Franklin," she'd said, "for peace of mind." So I'd hired a company. 2 cameras, one covering the front door, one covering the backyard. The installer had shown me how to check them on my phone, how to scroll back through recorded footage. I'd barely looked at them since. Until now. My hands trembled as I opened the security app. The screen loaded slowly, too slowly. The live feed appeared, showing my backyard in grainy night vision. The patio, the fence, the lawn chairs I kept meaning to put away for winter. Everything looked still, empty. But something was different. One of the lawn chairs had moved. I was certain of it. Yesterday afternoon, I'd arranged them neatly. Catherine had always been particular about keeping things tidy, and I'd maintained her standards. But now one chair sat several feet away from the others, angled toward the house. and the side gate, the one that connected the front yard to the back, stood open. Just slightly, maybe 6 inches. I always kept that gate closed, always locked it. My chest tightened. Someone had been in my yard, maybe still was. I needed to check the recorded footage, see what had happened, see who had been out there while I was sleeping. I sat on the edge of the bed phone, gripped in both hands, and navigated to the playback function. The app was slow, each second of buffering feeling like an eternity. My insurance investigator training kicked in. Document everything, gather evidence, stay calm. But calm was getting harder to maintain. The footage loaded. I scrolled back to 2 a.m., watched my empty backyard in infrared. Nothing moved except the branches of the oak tree swaying in the night breeze. 2:05 a.m., still nothing. 2:10 a.m. The gate was closed in the frame. Everything normal. Then, at 2:17 a.m., the gate moved. Just slightly at first, someone pushing it open from the other side. A pause. Then a shadow separated from the darkness. Tall, moving with purpose, not the uncertain stumbling of someone lost or drunk. This person knew exactly where they were going. I leaned closer to the screen, my eyes straining in the bedroom's darkness. The figure crossed my patio in a few quick strides, heading straight for my back door. They wore dark clothing, a hood pulled up. In the camera's night vision, their face was just a pale blur. They stopped at my back door. Reached out. Were they trying the handle? Checking if it was locked? My breath came faster. I'd locked that door. I always locked it before bed. Catherine had drilled that into me decades ago. Lock the doors, check the windows, keep the family safe. The figure stood there for maybe 10 seconds. Then they stepped back, tilted their head up, and looked directly at the camera. For one frozen moment, I could almost see their features, but the night vision turned everything into shades of gray, washing out details. All I could make out was the shape of their face, the dark void of their hood. Then they moved to the left, disappearing from the camera's view toward the side of the house. I waited, watching the empty patio. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. 30 seconds passed. A minute. What were they doing? Why weren't they leaving? At 2:45 a.m., the screen went black. Not static, not the grainy interference of a bad signal. Just nothing. Complete blackness. I stared at the phone, confusion mixing with fear. Had the camera died? Had the power gone out? But the timestamp in the corner was still counting. 2:45:01. 2:45:02. 2:45:03. The camera was still running, but it wasn't recording anything. I checked the system status. Everything showed as operational. No alerts. No errors. The camera was working fine, except there was no image. For the next 23 minutes, my security camera recorded nothing but a black screen. Then, at 3:08 a.m., the picture came back. The patio reappeared in night vision, empty now. The lawn chair still out of place. The gate still hanging open. Everything looked exactly as it had before, except the camera angle was different, tilted slightly upward, showing more sky than ground. Someone had adjusted the camera. My hands had gone cold. This wasn't a random prowler. This wasn't some drunk stumbling through the wrong yard. This was someone who knew I had cameras. Someone who knew how to disable them. Someone who'd planned this. I stood from the bed and went downstairs. Checked the back door, still locked. The windows all secure. Everything seemed fine. But when I examined the back door in the kitchen light, I saw them. Small scratches around the keyhole. Fresh ones, the brass bright, where something had scraped away the tarnish. Someone had tried the lock. Worked at it. I stared at the black screen on my phone, my coffee going cold on the kitchen counter. The sun had been up for 2 hours, but I hadn't moved from this spot. I'd been rewatching those 23 minutes of darkness over and over, as if staring at the void long enough would make something appear. It didn't. 2:45 a.m. to 3:08 a.m., a perfect black rectangle where evidence should have been, where answers should have been. This wasn't a technical glitch. The timestamp kept running. The system showed no errors. The camera had been working, it just hadn't been recording anything visible. Or someone had made sure it wouldn't. I thought about those scratches on my back door lock, the moved lawn chair, the adjusted camera angle. Each detail alone could be explained away. Together they formed a pattern I'd spent 40 years learning to recognize. Someone had done this deliberately, professionally, and they'd known exactly what they were doing. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts, stopping at Russell Parker's name. Russell had been the one to recommend the security company. He'd know what to do. But then I hesitated. Russell was 72, recovering from hip surgery. The last thing he needed was me dragging him into whatever this was at 7 in the morning. No, I needed someone else. Someone who understood technology. Someone who could tell me if this footage could be recovered or if it was gone forever. Jake Martinez. The name came to me suddenly. Jake ran a tech repair shop downtown, Martinez Tech Repair. We'd served on the neighborhood watch together a few years back before Catherine got sick. He was the guy everyone called when their computer died or their phone got hacked. If anyone could make sense of deleted security footage, it was Jake. I found his number and dialed before I could second-guess myself. 3 rings. Then, Martinez Tech Repair, this is Jake. Jake, it's Franklin Hayes. We were on the neighborhood watch together. Mr. Hayes, of course. How are you? His voice was warm, genuine. Haven't seen you at the meetings lately. I've been busy. The lie felt hollow. Truth was, I'd stopped going after Catherine died. Couldn't face the sympathetic looks, the careful questions about how I was holding up. Listen, I need your help with something. Security camera footage that's been tampered with. A pause. Tampered with how? Deleted or blocked. I'm not sure. Can you take a look? Bring the system in. I'll see what I can do. 20 minutes later, I was in my car, the DVR unit heavy on the passenger seat beside me. I disconnected it carefully, wrapping the cables the way the installer had shown me. The whole process felt surreal, like evidence collection in one of my old insurance cases, except this time, I was the victim. The drive through Charlotte was quiet. Morning traffic hadn't started yet. I passed the coffee shop, where Catherine and I used to meet Tyler for Sunday breakfast. Past the park where we'd celebrated Tyler's college graduation. Every street held a memory, and today each one felt like a weight pressing down on my chest. By the time I pulled into the parking lot of Martinez Tech Repair, my hands were shaking. Jake was waiting inside the shop, empty, except for rows of computers and circuit boards lining the walls. He took the DVR from me without a word, his expression professional but curious. "What am I looking for?" he asked, setting it on his workbench. "Last night, between 2:45 and 3:08 a.m., the footage goes black." He plugged in the unit and pulled up the interface on his computer. His fingers flew across the keyboard, navigating through menus I didn't understand. I watched him work my stomach tight with anxiety. After 10 minutes, he sat back. "Mr. Hayes, this wasn't an accident." My throat went dry. "What do you mean?" "Someone accessed your system remotely. See this?" He pointed at lines of code scrolling across his screen. "These are access logs. Someone logged in at 2:44 a.m. using administrator credentials. They didn't just delete the footage, they overwrote it. Professionally. like they knew exactly what they were doing. The room felt suddenly colder. "Can you recover it?" Jake's expression was grim. "Maybe. They were good, but people always make mistakes. Leave traces. Digital fingerprints." He started typing again, opening windows I couldn't follow. "This is going to take a few hours. Maybe more. Why don't you come back around 4? Can you tell me anything else? Anything about who did this?" He shook his head. "Not yet. But Mr. Hayes," he looked up at me, something unreadable in his eyes. "Whoever did this had access to your system. Either they hacked it remotely, which is hard with modern encryption, or what? Or they had your login credentials, your passwords, your access codes." The implication hung in the air between us. Someone close to me. Someone who'd been in my house, who knew my systems, who had the technical knowledge to do this. "I'll call you when I find something," Jake said quietly. I left the shop and sat in my car for a long moment, hands gripping the steering wheel. The morning sun was bright now. People starting their normal days, heading to work, getting coffee, living their lives. While mine was unraveling, I drove home slowly, my mind circling the same questions. Who had access to my security system? Who knew my passwords? Who would want to break into my house and then carefully erase the evidence? The answers that came to me, the ones I kept pushing away, were too terrible to consider. By the time I pulled into my driveway, one thought had crystallized. This wasn't random. This wasn't some stranger picking houses at random. This was personal, and they weren't finished. I walked into my house, the one I'd shared with Catherine for 23 years, the one where we'd raised Tyler, the one I'd always felt safe in, and locked the door behind me. For the first time in decades, I didn't feel safe anymore. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Tyler. "Hey Dad, just checking in. Everything okay?" I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Everything okay? No. Nothing was okay. But I couldn't tell him that. Not yet. Not until I knew what I was dealing with. I typed back, "Fine. Talk later." Then I sat at my kitchen table and waited for Jake to call, because whoever had been in my backyard last night, whoever had erased those 23 minutes, had made one mistake. They'd assumed the deletion was permanent. Jake called at 3:47 p.m. I'd spent the hours in between trying to act normal, making lunch I couldn't eat, attempting to read the newspaper, staring at the back door and those scratches around the lock. But my mind kept circling back to one question. Who had access to my security system? Who knew my house well enough to navigate it in the dark? Who would do this? "Mr. Hayes, I've got something. You need to come see this." 20 minutes later, I was back at Martinez Tech Repair. Jake's expression was serious as he gestured me behind the counter. "I recovered most of it," he said. "Took some work, they'd overwritten the files, but data leaves traces. Always does." He pulled up a video file on his monitor. "You're not going to like this." My heart hammered as he hit play. The screen showed my backyard in night vision, the timestamp reading 2:17:04 a.m. For a few seconds, nothing. Then, a shadow moved at the edge of the frame, someone climbing over my back fence. Not struggling, not hesitating. They dropped into my yard with practiced ease. "Watch," Jake said quietly. The figure was tall, slim, wearing dark clothing and a hood. They walked straight across my patio like they'd done it 100 times before. No flashlight, no fumbling. They knew exactly where they were going. When they reached my back door, they stopped. And from their pocket, they pulled something out. Even through the corrupted footage, I could see what it was. A key. My hands gripped the edge of Jake's desk as I watched the figure insert the key into my lock, turn it, and open my door like they were coming home from work. No forced entry. No broken window. No picking the lock. They had a key to my house. Jesus, I whispered. The timestamp jumped more corrupted data, but when it came back it showed 2:25:13 a.m. 8 minutes had passed. The figure emerged from my house, looked around my backyard, then did something that made my blood run cold. They looked directly at the camera. For just a moment the hood shifted. I could make out part of a face, not clearly, the resolution wasn't good enough, but a jawline, the shape of a nose. Then they reached up and adjusted the camera angle, tilting it upward. That's when the feed went completely black. They knew it was there. I said, my voice distant to my own ears. They knew about the camera. Yeah, Jake said. And they knew how to access the storage remotely. That's not something you just figure out. That takes knowledge. Or, he paused. Someone told them how. I straightened up, my mind racing. Jake, can you tell who it is? He shook his head. Not from this footage. The corruption's too bad and they kept their face covered mostly. But Mr. Hayes, he chose his words carefully. Whoever this is, they had a key. That's not a random burglar. That's someone who either has legitimate access to your house or someone you gave a key to. The word hung in the air. Someone I gave a key to. I thought about my house, about the locks Catherine and I had installed 23 years ago. We'd been so careful about keys, one for each of us, one spare in the garage for emergencies. After Catherine died, I'd given that spare to my son Tyler, just in case something happened to me, just in case I needed help. Only 2 people besides me had keys to that house, Tyler and his wife Miranda. I need a copy of this, I said, my voice hollow. Jake was already burning it to a USB drive. I figured, and Mr. Hayes, you should probably change your locks, today if you can. I took the drive and drove home in a fog. The afternoon sun felt wrong, too bright, too cheerful for what I'd just learned. The neighborhood looked the same as always. Kids playing basketball. Someone washing their car. Mrs. Patterson walking her corgi. Everything normal while my world collapsed. When I got home, I went straight to the back door. In the daylight, I could see the scratches more clearly now. Fresh ones, the metal still bright, where a key or something had scraped against it. Not from picking the lock, from a key that didn't quite fit right, or from someone using it in the dark without being careful. I stood there for a long time, staring at those marks. My son wouldn't do this. Tyler was a good man. I'd raised him right. He'd never break into my house, never erase security footage, never. But then I thought about the last 6 months. Small things I'd noticed and dismissed. Papers on my desk rearranged. Bank statements in a different order than Catherine had kept them. Miranda asking questions about my retirement accounts, about my life insurance. Tyler getting defensive when I asked about meeting Miranda's family, about her past, about Tennessee, where she claimed to be from. The pieces I'd been ignoring suddenly formed a picture I didn't want to see. I pulled out my phone and looked at Tyler's contact. My thumb hovered over the call button. What would I even say? Hey, son, did you break into my house last night? It sounded crazy, paranoid. The suspicions of an old man who'd lost his wife and was seeing threats everywhere. Except the footage was real. The key was real. The erased files were real. Someone had been in my house. Someone with a key only family members had. My phone buzzed. Tyler. Hey, Dad, Miranda, and I want to stop by tomorrow. She's been worried about you. Thinks we should help you organize some of Mom's old paperwork. What do you think? I stared at the message. Organize Mom's old paperwork. Catherine's files. The ones I kept in her old craft room. The room where I stored important documents. Bank statements. Insurance policies. My will. the same room the intruder had been in for 8 minutes. My hands shook as I typed back, "Sure, tomorrow works." But my mind was screaming. I sat at my kitchen table as evening fell, the USB drive from Jake in front of me. I plugged it into my laptop and watched the footage again, and again, and again. That figure climbing my fence, walking to my door with confidence, using a key, adjusting the camera afterward, someone who knew my house, someone I trusted. My son wouldn't do this, would he? But then I thought about 40 years investigating insurance fraud, about all the cases where families destroyed each other over money, sons stealing from fathers, daughters emptying their mothers' accounts, love twisted into greed. I'd seen it all. I just never thought I'd see it in my own home. The sun set. The kitchen grew dark around me, and I sat there thinking about that key, about those 8 minutes, about tomorrow when Tyler and Miranda would come to help me organize paperwork. My son wouldn't do this, but someone had, and I was going to find out who. I sat at the kitchen table as darkness settled around me, the USB drive from Jake in front of me, like a piece of evidence I wasn't ready to examine. But my mind wouldn't stop working backward through the last 6 months, pulling at threads I'd been ignoring. Small things, things I'd dismissed as forgetfulness or coincidence. Papers on my desk that had been moved, not ransacked, just subtly out of place. Bank statements in a different order. My insurance folder open when I remembered closing it. I'd blamed my age, told myself things slip when you live alone. But now I wondered. Then there were Miranda's questions, always casual, wrapped in concern. "How's your retirement fund? Franklin, Tyler and I worry about you." Or, "Do you still have that life insurance from work? Those old policies sometimes aren't worth much." At the time, I'd thought she was being thoughtful. Now those questions felt different, like she was taking inventory. And then there was Tennessee. Miranda always said she was from Knoxville, grew up there, went to high school there. I'd believed her until about 3 months ago when we were watching a Volunteers game. I mentioned Calhoun's, a famous restaurant on the Tennessee River. "Every person from Knoxville knows Calhoun's." She'd looked at me blankly. "I don't think I know that one. It's right on the river. Been there forever." "Oh well, Knoxville's a big city." She'd changed the subject quickly. I'd started paying attention after that. Her accent, or lack of one. When Miranda was calm, her voice was neutral, almost generic. But I'd heard her angry once during an argument with Tyler in my driveway. Her voice had gone sharp and clipped, but there was no southern softness, no drawl, nothing suggesting 18 years in Tennessee. I'd mentioned it to Tyler. "Your wife doesn't have much of an accent." He'd shrugged. "She worked hard to lose it. Said people don't take you seriously in business if you sound too country." Maybe. But in my experience, an accent comes back when you're tired or angry. Miranda's never did. Because maybe it was never there to begin with. The phone call had come that afternoon at 4:47 p.m. before I'd gone to Jake's shop. "Mr. Hayes, this is Nicole Harper from Wells Fargo. I'm calling about a request to update your beneficiary information." My hand had stilled on the coffee pot. "What request?" "Your son Tyler submitted paperwork 3 days ago requesting changes to your life insurance beneficiary and access to your accounts. We're required to verify with you before processing." "I didn't authorize any changes." Silence. "Mr. Hayes, are you aware your son has power of attorney for your accounts?" The power of attorney. I'd signed it 2 years ago after Catherine died. I'd had a health scare, and my lawyer recommended it. "Just in case something happens and you can't make decisions, Tyler can handle things." It was for medical emergencies, hospital decisions, not this. That was for medical purposes. I said, my voice tight. Not financial. Sir, the document we have grants broad authority. It allows your son to make financial decisions on your behalf, including beneficiary changes and account management. My hands had gone cold. Stop any changes. Right now. Nothing gets changed without me physically present. Do you understand? Of course. I'll flag your account immediately. And sir, you might want to come in tomorrow. There are other attempted transactions we should discuss. I'd ended the call and stood there in my kitchen trying to understand. Tyler had tried to change my life insurance beneficiary. Tyler had tried to access my accounts. Tyler, who I'd trusted enough to give legal authority. Tyler, who might have given someone that key. Now, hours later, with Jake's USB drive in front of me, all those small things assembled into a picture I didn't want to see. The moved papers, someone had been looking through my files. The questions, someone had been assessing what I had. The bank attempt, someone was making their move. And whoever used that key at 2:17 this morning had known exactly where my camera was. This wasn't random. This was planned. This was family. I looked at the clock. Nearly 8 p.m. The bank had closed hours ago, but tomorrow morning I'd be there when the doors opened. I'd find out exactly what other attempted transactions Nicole Harper wanted to discuss. I'd learn how long this had been going on. 40 years as an insurance adjuster had taught me one thing: when the evidence doesn't line up, someone's usually hiding something. I'd spent my career investigating fraud, false claims, staged accidents, elaborate schemes. I'd seen families destroy each other over money. I just never thought I'd be investigating my own son. The question that had been circling my mind all evening finally crystallized into something clear and cold. If Tyler was willing to do this, how far would he go? I thought about that figure in the darkness moving through my backyard with purpose, about the key turning in my lock, about someone standing in my house for 8 minutes doing God knows what. And I thought about tomorrow. Tomorrow I'd get answers. Tomorrow I'd see the evidence in black and white. Tomorrow I'd know the truth about what my son and the woman he married had been planning. But tonight, I sat in the darkness with one thought that wouldn't let me go. If I couldn't trust my own family, who could I trust? I stood up, my joints protesting, and walked to the back door one more time. Checked the lock. Looked out at the backyard, where someone had climbed my fence just last night. The patio stones gleamed in the moonlight, peaceful and still. Everything looked normal, safe. But I knew better now. Tomorrow morning I'd be at that bank when the doors opened, and then I'd find out just how wrong I'd been about the people I thought I knew. I was waiting in the Wells Fargo parking lot at 8:45 the next morning, watching the employees arrive and unlock the doors. The moment the lights came on, I was out of my truck and walking toward the entrance. The young woman at the front desk looked up with her practiced smile. "Good morning, sir. How can we help you today?" "I need to see Nicole Harper, now." Something in my voice must have registered, because her smile faltered. "Do you have an appointment?" "Tell her Franklin Hayes is here. She'll want to see me." 5 minutes later, I was sitting across from Nicole Harper in a small office off the main floor. She was younger than I'd expected from her voice on the phone, maybe mid-30s with sharp eyes, and the kind of professional demeanor that comes from years of dealing with people's money problems. "Mr. Hayes." She extended her hand. "I'm glad you came in." I didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Show me everything." She pulled up my accounts on her computer, angling the screen so I could see. 3 weeks ago, your son came in with power of attorney documentation. Everything appeared legitimate. It had your signature, it was notarized. It gave him authority to manage your accounts. What did he try to do? Nicole clicked through several screens. First, he attempted to change the beneficiary on your life insurance policy from estate to his wife, Miranda Hayes. That change would have meant that upon your death, The $500,000 policy would go directly to her, bypassing probate entirely. $500,000. I'd set that up after Catherine died, meant it to cover funeral expenses and leave something for Tyler. Now my own son was trying to redirect it to his wife. What else? He requested access to your checking and savings accounts. Said you were having memory issues and he needed to help manage your finances. He wanted to add himself and his wife as joint account holders. My hands tightened on the armrests. Joint account holders meant they could drain everything without my knowledge or permission. Did he succeed? No. Our policy requires verification calls for any major changes when power of attorney is involved, especially for clients over 65. That's why I called you yesterday, but Mr. Hayes... She hesitated. He was very convincing. If we hadn't had that extra protocol in place, these changes would have gone through. I want everything blocked. Right now. Already done as of yesterday. I've placed a hard freeze on your accounts. No changes can be made without you physically present with valid ID. She pulled out a form. But I need you to sign this official revocation. It states that no one, including Tyler Hayes, has authority to make changes to your accounts, regardless of what documents they present. I signed it without hesitation, my signature sharp and angry across the page. Nicole watched me carefully. Mr. Hayes, I have to ask, do you feel safe at home? If there's financial exploitation happening, there could be other concerns. The question landed harder than she probably intended. I'm handling it. We can provide resources, elder advocacy services, legal referrals. I said I'm handling it. The words came out sharper than I meant. I took a breath. But thank you for calling, for stopping this. She nodded slowly. I've documented everything in your file. If you need these records for legal purposes, we can provide certified copies. She paused. I've been doing this job for 10 years. I've seen a lot of financial abuse cases. Most of them are family members, and most of them start exactly like this: small requests, legitimate-looking documents, someone the victim trusts. I'm not a victim, I said quietly. No, she agreed. You're not, because you came in, you asked questions. A lot of people don't. She stood, extending her hand again. Be careful, Mr. Hayes. People who are willing to forge documents and manipulate bank accounts, they don't usually stop there. I left the bank with a folder full of printouts, showing exactly what Tyler had tried to do, timestamps and all. The evidence was right there in black and white. My son had walked into this bank 3 weeks ago and tried to steal my money, tried to redirect my life insurance, tried to position himself to control everything I had. I sat in my truck for a moment, engine running, staring at those papers. Then I pulled out my phone and called Tyler. He answered on the second ring. Dad, is everything okay? We need to talk. Tonight, 7 o'clock. My house. Sure. About what? Bring Miranda. There was a pause. Dad, what's this about? 7 o'clock, Tyler. Don't be late. I hung up before he could say anything else. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from anger. From the betrayal of it. From the calculated coldness of walking into a bank and trying to steal from your own father. I had 6 hours until they arrived. 6 hours to prepare for a conversation I never thought I'd have to have. 6 hours to figure out how to confront my own son with the evidence of what he'd tried to do. I looked down at the papers in the passenger seat. Tyler's signature on the forms. The date 3 weeks ago, right around the time Miranda had asked all those questions about my insurance at dinner. Right around the time I'd noticed my papers being moved. This had been planned. Carefully. Methodically. But they'd made one mistake. They'd underestimated me. They'd thought I was just another lonely old man who wouldn't notice, wouldn't question, wouldn't fight back. They were wrong. I started the truck and headed home already thinking through what I needed to say, what I needed to ask. The folder of bank documents sat on the seat beside me like ammunition. Tonight at 7 o'clock, I'd find out exactly how far this went. I'd find out who my son really was, and I'd find out if there was anything left of the boy I'd raised, or if that person was gone entirely. 6 hours to prepare. I planned to use every minute. The doorbell rang at exactly 7 o'clock. I'd spent the afternoon going over the bank documents, rehearsing what I'd say, thinking through every angle the way I used to prepare for depositions, back when I handled the bigger claims. But when I opened the door, I wasn't prepared for what I saw. Tyler stood there looking nervous, avoiding my eyes. Miranda beside him, perfectly composed in a navy dress, her smile just a little too bright. And behind them, a third person I'd never seen before. A man in his 50s wearing an expensive suit and carrying a leather briefcase. "Dad." Tyler started, "This is Kenneth Wallace." The man extended his hand with practiced smoothness. "I'm an estate planning consultant. Tyler and Miranda asked me to come along tonight. I hope that's all right." I didn't take his hand. 40 years of evaluating people for a living had given me a pretty good sense of when something didn't add up, and everything about this man, his too confident smile, the way he'd inserted himself into the introduction, the expensive briefcase for what was supposed to be a family conversation set off alarms. "I don't recall inviting you," I said. "Dad, please." Tyler's voice had that pleading tone I remembered from his teenage years. "Kenneth's just here to help explain some things. We thought having a professional present might make this easier." "Easier for who?" Kenneth's smile never wavered. "Mr. Hayes, I understand you might be feeling defensive. That's completely natural. But Tyler and Miranda are concerned about you, and sometimes having an objective third party can come in." I stepped back. Not because I wanted Kenneth there, but because I wanted to see how this played out. And because I'd learned a long time ago that you learn more from watching people lie to your face than you do from shutting them out. They filed into my living room. Kenneth made straight for my coffee table, setting down his briefcase and pulling out a folder of documents before anyone had even sat down. The smooth efficiency of it bothered me like he'd done this before. Many times. "Coffee?" I asked, playing the role of gracious host, even though my hands were itching to throw them all out. "We're fine," Miranda said quickly, too quickly, like she wanted to get through this and leave. We all sat. Kenneth spread papers across my coffee table with the practiced movements of a salesman laying out his pitch. I recognized some of the forms: power of attorney documents, beneficiary designation forms, property transfer papers. "Mr. Hayes," Kenneth began, his voice taking on that careful, patronizing tone people use when they think they're talking to someone who doesn't understand. "At your age, proper planning is essential. Tyler and Miranda have expressed concern about your ability to manage your financial affairs independently. And my ability. What Kenneth means?" Miranda jumped in her voice, honey sweet. "Is that we worry about you, Franklin. Living alone at your age with all these accounts and properties to manage, it's a lot. We just want to help lighten the burden. By changing my life insurance beneficiary to you." The room went silent. Tyler's face went pale. Miranda's smile froze. Kenneth's eyes sharpened, his salesman persona slipping just a fraction. "Dad, I can explain. By trying to make yourselves joint account holders." I continued, my voice steady. "By walking into my bank 3 weeks ago with power of attorney documents and trying to get control of my accounts." "Mr. Hayes," Kenneth's voice had lost some of its warmth. I think there may be some confusion about there's no confusion. I pulled out the folder from Wells Fargo and set it on the table over his papers. I went to the bank this morning. I have copies of everything Tyler tried to do. Timestamps, signatures, all of it. Tyler's mouth opened and closed. Miranda's hand tightened on his arm, but she recovered quickly, her face rearranging itself into an expression of wounded concern. Franklin, we were only trying to help. You've been so distracted lately, forgetting things. Have I? I leaned forward. Funny because my memory's just fine. Good enough to remember someone entering my house at 2 in the morning. Someone with a key. Another silence, heavier this time. I watched their faces carefully. Tyler's confusion looked genuine, but Miranda's eyes had gone cold for just a second before the concern mask slipped back on. 2 in the morning. Tyler looked between me and Miranda. What are you talking about? Security footage. I let that hang in the air. Someone climbed my fence, used a key to enter my house, and then erased the camera footage. Someone who knew exactly where the camera was. Kenneth stood abruptly. Mr. Hayes, I think perhaps we should reconvene when you're feeling more. I know exactly how I'm feeling. I stood too, and suddenly the living room felt smaller. I feel like I'm being robbed by my own family and by whoever you are. Dad, that's not. I blocked everything at the bank this morning. I continued ignoring Tyler. Every account, every policy, every document. Nothing can be changed without me physically present with my ID. Your power of attorney revoked. Whatever you three were planning, it's over. Kenneth's professional mask cracked. His jaw tightened. His eyes went cold. And for just a moment, I saw something that looked a lot like anger. Then he smiled again, but it didn't reach his eyes. Well, he said, gathering his papers with sharp, frustrated movements. It seems we're at an impasse. Perhaps after you've had time to reconsider, get out. The words came out quiet, but absolute. Kenneth stopped mid-movement. Miranda stood pulling Tyler up with her. Franklin, you're making a mistake. Out. All of you. Now. Tyler looked like he wanted to say something, his mouth opening and closing, but Miranda's hand on his arm steered him toward the door. Kenneth followed his briefcase, clutched tight, his professional composure cracking around the edges. I walked them to the door and watched as they got into Tyler's car, a tense, silent group. As they pulled away, I noticed something white on the porch. Kenneth's business card fallen from his pocket or his briefcase. I picked it up. Kenneth Wallace, Pinnacle Estate Services, LLC, with a phone number and address in Charlotte. Back inside, I sat at my computer and typed the name into Google. The company website looked professional enough. Smooth photos, polished text about protecting families and planning futures. But something about it felt wrong. The testimonials were generic. The address was a P.O. box. And when I clicked on the About Us section, there were no actual names besides Kenneth's no credentials listed, no professional licensing numbers. I dug deeper, checking the Better Business Bureau. No listing. Searching for reviews outside their website. Nothing. Like the company barely existed outside that one polished web page. Then I found something. A forum post from 2 years ago, someone warning about a company called Pinnacle Estate Services that had tried to scam their elderly mother. The post had been deleted, but Google's cache still showed it. Professional looking, very convincing, almost lost everything. My hands went cold. This wasn't just Tyler and Miranda trying to take advantage. This was organized. This was professional. Kenneth Wallace wasn't just helping my son steal from me. He was running some kind of operation, and my family had walked right into it. Or maybe they'd invited him in. I stared at the business card, at the name that now felt less like a person and more like a threat. Then I did what any insurance adjuster would do when faced with potential fraud. I started documenting everything. Russell Parker showed up at my door the next morning with a thermos of coffee and a concerned expression I'd seen on his face before, usually when he was checking on neighbors after storms. Frank. He didn't wait for an invitation, just walked past me into the kitchen. Saw 3 people leaving here last night. Looked tense. You okay? I'd known Russell for 15 years. He was the kind of neighbor who noticed things who you were when your routine changed if something felt off. Right now, I was grateful for that. I'm not okay, I said, but I'm handling it. Talk to me. So I did. I told him about the camera footage, the bank fraud, Tyler and Miranda, and the man named Kenneth Wallace. I showed him the business card, the Google search results, the bank documents. Russell listened without interrupting, his face getting harder with each detail. When I finished, he set down his coffee cup with deliberate care. Frank, you need a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, a real one who deals with this kind of thing. I know. I just don't know where to start. Diane Foster. He pulled out his phone. Handled my sister's estate case 2 years ago when her husband's family tried to pull some similar garbage. She doesn't mess around, and she doesn't lose. 20 minutes later, I had an appointment for that afternoon. Diane Foster's office was in uptown Charlotte, in one of those glass buildings that look like they cost more per square foot than my entire house. The receptionist led me to a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Diane herself was maybe 50, sharp-eyed and direct in a way that reminded me of the best supervisors I'd worked with. No time wasted on small talk. Mr. Hayes. She shook my hand firmly. Russell called ahead. Said you're dealing with family financial exploitation. Tell me everything. I laid it out, the timeline, the evidence, the players. She took notes on a legal pad, her pen moving quickly, stopping me occasionally to ask specific questions. When I showed her the bank documents, she studied them with the focus of someone who'd seen this before. This is textbook elder financial abuse, she said finally. And it's more common than you'd think. Family members, professional fraudsters, or like in your case, both working together. The words landed with unexpected weight. Elder abuse sounded clinical, like something that happened to other people. Not to me. Not to someone who'd spent 40 years making sound decisions, evaluating risk, staying sharp. Diane must have seen something in my face because her expression softened slightly. Mr. Hayes, this isn't about your capability. It's about trust. They targeted you because you trusted them. That's not a weakness. It's what makes you human. I nodded, not quite believing it, but appreciating the effort. Here's what we're going to do. She pulled out a fresh legal pad. First, we file protective orders, legal documentation that prevents them from accessing your property or accounts. Second, we get a notarized capacity declaration. That's a formal assessment, proving you're of sound mind and fully capable of managing your affairs. It'll make it nearly impossible for them to claim incompetence later. Can they claim that? They can try. That's usually the next move when financial manipulation fails. Argue the person isn't capable of making decisions, petition for guardianship. We're going to cut that off before it starts. She walked me through the process, paperwork, assessments, timelines. It was thorough, strategic, exactly what I needed to hear. What about the camera footage? I asked. The person with the key. We'll include that in the protective order filing. Breaking and entering evidence, tampering, those are serious. And Mr. Hayes. She looked at me directly. This Kenneth Wallace. His company. I'm going to have my investigator look into it. If he's running a broader operation, you might not be the only victim. The thought was somehow both disturbing and oddly reassuring. Not alone in being targeted. not special in being foolish enough to trust. We spent another hour going over details, signing initial documents, planning next steps. By the time I left, I had a folder full of papers and something I hadn't felt since seeing that camera footage, hope. I was almost to my truck when my phone rang. Diane. Mr. Hayes, one more thing. I need you to think about something. Her voice was different now, more careful. Is your son the one leading this, or is someone else pulling his strings? I stood in the parking garage, keys in hand, thinking about Tyler's face last night. The confusion when I mentioned the break-in. The way Miranda's hand had tightened on his arm. The way Kenneth had taken control of the conversation. I don't know, I said honestly. But I'm going to find out. Good. Because knowing who's really in charge changes how we fight this. Be careful, Mr. Hayes, and call me if anything else happens. I drove home thinking about that question. Tyler had always been easily influenced by friends in high school, by co-workers in his 20s, by Miranda since he'd married her. But was he just weak, or was he actively complicit? Was he being used, or was he using me? The answer mattered. Not just legally, but personally. Because somewhere under all this betrayal and anger, he was still my son. And part of me, the part that remembered teaching him to ride a bike, helping with homework, walking him down the aisle at his wedding, still wanted to believe there was something worth saving. But another part, the part that had spent 40 years spotting fraud, knew better than to let sentiment cloud judgment. I'd find out the truth, and then I'd decide what to do with it. I pulled into my driveway just after 4 that afternoon, my mind still processing everything Diane had said about protective orders and capacity declarations. But before I could even turn off the engine, Russell was crossing the street, waving with an urgency that made my stomach drop. Frank. He was at my window before I got the door open. Black Lexus, been parked down the street for 2 hours. Tinted windows, just sitting there. I followed his gesture. 3 houses down on the opposite side of the street sat a black Lexus sedan with windows so dark I couldn't see inside. As I watched, I could feel eyes on me from behind that glass. You think it's them?" Russell asked quietly. "Only one way to find out." I started toward the car, but Russell caught my arm. "Don't. Not directly." He pulled out his phone. "Jordan's inside. Kid's good with this kind of thing." Jordan Parker appeared a minute later with Russell's dog, a golden retriever that immediately pulled toward the Lexus like he'd been trained for exactly this moment. Jordan was maybe 25, wearing a college hoodie and jeans, his phone already in his hand. We watched from my driveway as he let the dog lead him past the black car, pausing while the dog sniffed a mailbox. To anyone watching it, looked completely natural. Jordan's phone stayed low, casual, but I saw the quick movements of someone taking photos. The Lexus didn't move, didn't start. Whoever was inside just sat there letting themselves be photographed. That bothered me more than anything, the confidence of it. Jordan circled back, the dog trotting happily beside him. "Got it," he said when he reached us, already swiping through his phone. Plate's clear as day. Give me a sec." He had the DMV information pulled up in under a minute, some app I'd never heard of, that his friend at the motor vehicle office had given him access to. "What vehicle registered to?" Jordan's expression changed as he read. "Pinnacle Estate Services, LLC, Charlotte address." The world seemed to tilt slightly. Russell looked at me, understanding dawning on his face. "That's Kenneth Wallace's company," I said. "The man who showed up at my house last night." "They're watching you," Russell said flatly. "I'm Frank, this isn't just family trying to get at your money. This is organized." He was right. Tyler and Miranda trying to manipulate bank accounts was one thing, but a professional surveillance operation, a registered company, a man in an expensive suit who knew exactly how to work the system, this was something else entirely. I need to call Diane. I said, already pulling out my phone. Do it from inside, Russell advised. And Frank, keep your doors locked. All of them. I spent the rest of the afternoon on the phone with Diane explaining about the Lexus, about Jordan's photo, about the Pinnacle Estate Services registration. She told me to forward everything and promised to have her investigator dig deeper. This confirms what I suspected, she said. Kenneth Wallace isn't just helping your son. He's running an operation. You're probably not the first elderly person he's targeted, and you won't be the last unless we stop him. The words should have scared me. Instead, they made me angry. These people thought they could intimidate me, could sit outside my house and watch me like I was prey. They were wrong. By 7 that evening, the Lexus was gone. But I knew better than to feel relieved. Surveillance doesn't stop just because you can't see it. I checked every lock twice before going to bed. Set my phone on the nightstand with the security camera app open. Jake had installed a second camera at the front door after recovering that first footage. I lay there in the dark, listening to the house settle, wondering if I'd ever feel safe here again. At 3:17 a.m., my phone buzzed with a motion alert. I grabbed it, my heart already racing, and pulled up the camera feed. Someone was standing at my front door. Not trying to break in, not crouching or hiding. Just standing there, perfectly still, looking directly at the camera, like they knew I was watching. The porch light caught enough detail for me to see tall, slim build, dark jacket, the same general shape as the figure from the backyard footage. But this time, as I watched, they raised one hand and knocked. 3 slow, deliberate knocks that echoed through my house like a heartbeat. Then they stepped back, looked at the camera one more time, and walked away into the darkness. I sat frozen in bed, staring at my phone screen, watching the empty porch. My security system recorded it all. The approach, the knock, the retreat. All of it captured in perfect digital clarity. But what chilled me most wasn't that someone had come to my door at 3 a.m. It was that they'd wanted me to know they were there. This wasn't about stealing anymore. This was a message, and I had no idea what it meant. The face on my phone screen at 3:17 a.m. was Tyler. For a moment, I just stared, my mind struggling to process what I was seeing. My son, standing at my front door in the middle of the night. The figure who'd knocked 3 times and walked away, it had been him. I was down the stairs and at the door before I could think it through. Tyler stood on the porch, looking like he'd aged 10 years since I'd last seen him 2 nights ago. His hair was messed up, his eyes red and swollen. He'd been crying. "Dad!" His voice cracked. "I need to talk, without Miranda." I pulled him inside and locked the door behind us. We sat at the kitchen table with coffee neither of us really wanted. Tyler's hands wrapped around the mug like he needed something to hold on to. For a long time he didn't speak, just stared into the dark liquid like he might find answers there. "She's lying," he finally said. "About everything. I thank God, Dad. I don't even know what I think anymore." "Tell me what happened." He took a shaky breath. 2 days ago, Miranda asked me to take her laptop to get fixed. Said it was running slow. I brought it home first. Thought maybe I could just clear some cache files, save us the money. When I opened it, he stopped rubbing his face with both hands. There were photos, lots of photos, of her but not her. Does that make sense? Not yet. Keep going. She was with different people, different families, and the files they were saved under a different name. Not Miranda, Vanessa something. I thought maybe it was old from before we met, but the dates were recent. Last year, 2 years ago. His voice rose, slightly, panic creeping in. "Dad, who is she?" My hands tightened on my own mug. The laptop. He'd found something on her laptop, something she didn't want him to see. "Did you ask her about it?" Yeah, he laughed bitterly. She got furious, said I was invading her privacy, that I was paranoid controlling. Said if I really loved her, I wouldn't question her. He looked up at me, and I saw the confusion of a man whose entire reality was crumbling. And maybe she's right. Maybe I am paranoid. Maybe. Tyler, stop. He fell silent. What else? I asked quietly. Kenneth showed up the next day. I didn't call him, Miranda did. He took me aside, said you were the real problem, that you were getting confused, forgetting things, that these accusations about the bank and the house were signs of paranoia. He said I needed to protect Miranda from your delusions. Tyler's voice broke, and I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe you were just... I wanted there to be a simple explanation. But you didn't believe him. No. He shook his head. Because I know you, Dad. I've known you my whole life. And you don't forget things. You don't make up stories. You spent 40 years spotting fraud for a living. He met my eyes. So either everyone's lying to me or I've been lying to myself. The kitchen was quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator. Outside, the first hints of dawn were starting to lighten the sky. Tyler, I need you to listen carefully. Miranda's laptop, do you still have access to it? She took it back. Reformatted it, she said. To fix it. Of course she did. Evidence destroyed before anyone else could see it. But you saw the files, the photos, the different name. Vanessa Moore. The name came out like he'd been holding it in, waiting to say it out loud to someone who might believe him. That's what I saw. Vanessa Moore. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Another name. Another identity. This wasn't just about stealing money. This was something else entirely. What do you want to do? I asked. Tyler looked at me helplessly. I don't know. She's my wife. 4 years, Dad. We have a life together. How do I just... He stopped. But if she's lying, if Kenneth's lying, if all of this is some kind of... I don't know what to do. I reached across the table and gripped his shoulder. We figure it out. Together. But Tyler, I need you to understand something. The people you're involved with, they're not just trying to steal from me. There's surveillance, there's an organization, there's a pattern. This is bigger than family drama. What are you saying? I'm saying be careful. Act normal around Miranda. Don't let on that you told me anything. And while you do that, I'm going to find out who she really is. He nodded slowly, understanding dawning. You want me to spy on her. I want you to protect yourself and help me protect both of us. I paused. Can you do that? Yeah. His voice was stronger now. Yeah, I can do that. We sat there a while longer as the sky outside slowly turned from black to gray. Tyler finished his coffee and stood to leave, looking more steady than when he'd arrived, but still carrying the weight of everything he'd learned. At the door, he turned back. Dad, I'm sorry. For all of it. The bank stuff, bringing Kenneth here, not believing you sooner. We'll deal with that later. Right now, just be smart. Be careful. He nodded and walked out into the pre-dawn darkness. I watched until his taillights disappeared around the corner, then closed and locked the door. I'd gotten my son back. That should have felt like a victory. But standing in my quiet house as morning approached, I realized I'd lost something else, my certainty about what we were dealing with. This wasn't just elder abuse. This wasn't just a family trying to steal an inheritance. This was something organized, something professional, something that involved false identities and surveillance, and a woman who'd been living a lie for years. And somewhere in all of it, my son had been just as much a victim as I was. The question was, how deep did this go? And who else was involved? I had a name now. Vanessa Moore. It wasn't much, but it was more than I'd had last night. And today, really, I'd start finding answers. 2 days after Tyler's midnight visit, my phone rang while I was making lunch. Dad. Tyler's voice was careful, measured. Miranda just asked me to take her laptop to get fixed. She says it's running slow again. Should I do it? We'd planned this. Tyler would act normal, watch for opportunities. This was the first one. Take it to Jake Martinez, I said, and tell him I sent you. An hour later, my phone rang again. Jake. Mr. Hayes, you need to get down here. Now. I was in my truck before he'd even hung up. When I walked into Martinez Tech Repair, Jake was standing behind his counter with an expression I'd never seen on him before, somewhere between shocked and angry. Stucky. Tyler left about 20 minutes ago, he said. Told me you'd want me to look at this carefully. He gestured to the laptop open on his workstation. Mr. Hayes, your daughter-in-law isn't who she says she is. He turned the screen toward me and my world tilted. The laptop was open to a folder of photos, dozens of them, and in every single one I saw Miranda, but not the Miranda I knew. These photos showed her with different people, different families, different settings. In one, she was posed with an elderly couple at what looked like a holiday dinner, all smiles and warm embraces. In another, she stood with a man and 2 teenage boys in front of a house I'd never seen. Who are these people? I asked. I don't know, but look at this. Jake clicked to another folder. The files were labeled with dates and names, not Miranda Hayes. Vanessa Moore, Ohio 2017 to 2018. Jessica Palmer, Cincinnati 2019. Miranda Hayes, Charlotte 2020 to present. My hands gripped the edge of his desk. She's done this before. Multiple times from what I'm seeing. Jake opened another window showing email accounts. She's got 3 different email addresses saved in here. Jessica.Palmer@ Vanessa.Moore.Personal@. The Miranda.Hayes one is the newest. What else? Jake pulled up a spreadsheet. Financial records. She kept them all on here. I guess she didn't think anyone would ever see this laptop. He pointed at the screen. Look at the pattern. Ohio, 2018, $42,000 deposit in March. Account emptied by June. Tennessee, 2020, $68,000 in January, gone by April. And here, he scrolled down. Georgia, 2022, $31,000, deposited, withdrawn 3 months later. The room felt like it was spinning. Those weren't just numbers. Those were families. People like me. People who'd trusted someone, taken them in, maybe given them power of attorney, or added them to accounts, only to watch everything disappear. Mr. Hayes. Jake's voice sounded distant. You okay? I wasn't okay. I was staring at evidence that my son had married a professional con artist, that the woman who'd been coming to my house for 4 years, asking me about my finances, smiling at family dinners, was someone who'd done this at least 3 times before. Maybe more. Can you copy all of this? My voice came out rough. Already done. Jake held up a USB drive. Every file, every photo, every email. It's all here. But Mr. Hayes, there's something else you need to know. What? The travel records. She's got airline confirmations, hotel reservations, all saved. Ohio, Tennessee, Georgia, but also Nevada, Florida, California. And the dates overlap. Some of these trips were taken while she was supposedly living in Tennessee, while she was supposedly working a job there. She was running multiple cons at once. That's what it looks like. Jake's expression was grim. This isn't some desperate person making bad decisions. This is organized, professional. She's been doing this for years. I took the USB drive, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. Thank you for calling me, for all of this. Mr. Hayes, you should go to the police. I'm calling my lawyer first. I walked out to my truck and sat there for a moment just breathing. Then I pulled out my phone and called Diane Foster. She answered on the second ring. Franklin, what's wrong? We have a bigger problem than I thought. I could hear my voice shaking. Miranda, my daughter-in-law, she's not who she says she is. She's done this before, multiple times. Different families, different states, different names. There was a pause. What kind of evidence do you have? Everything. Photos, financial records, email accounts, travel history. All digital. Jake Martinez pulled it off her laptop. Don't let that laptop out of your sight. And Franklin. Her voice sharpened with urgency. Bring everything to my office, now. We need to move on this before anyone realizes what you've found. If you've made it this far, I need to know you're still with me. Drop a comment below, sharing your thoughts on what Franklin should do next. Before we continue, a quick reminder. This narrative contains fictional elements crafted for storytelling purposes. If this isn't for you, feel free to pause here. Diane's office felt different the second time. Less refuge, more war room. I handed her the USB drive at 4:30 that afternoon. She plugged it into her laptop without a word, her expression hardening as she clicked through Jake's files. The photos, the emails, the financial records spanning 3 states and 4 years. This is beyond elder abuse, she said finally. This is organized fraud. She reached for her phone. I'm calling someone. The someone was Sarah Mitchell, a private investigator Diane had worked with on previous cases. Sarah arrived within an hour, a woman in her mid-50s with sharp eyes and a leather portfolio that had seen better days. Show me everything, Sarah said. We spent 90 minutes walking through the evidence. Every photo, every email address, every deposit and withdrawal. Sarah took notes in a shorthand. I couldn't read occasionally, asking questions that revealed decades of experience. This will take about a week, she said, as she copied the USB contents. Maybe less if I get lucky. I'll run background checks on all 3 names, cross-reference with law enforcement databases, check civil court records in Ohio, Tennessee, and Georgia. She looked at me directly. Mr. Hayes, if this woman is who I think she is, you're not her first victim. I drove home as the sun set over Charlotte Russell's porch, light already on like a beacon. The week that followed was the longest of my life. I kept my routine. Morning coffee, afternoon walk, evening news. But every moment felt suspended, waiting for Sarah's call. Tyler texted twice, asking if there was any news. I told him to sit tight, keep acting normal around Miranda. The hardest part was knowing what I knew and having to wait for confirmation. Diane called on day 13. Sarah has preliminary results. Can you come in this afternoon? Sarah's folder was 6 inches thick. She opened it methodically, laying out documents like a prosecutor building a case. Driver's licenses, marriage certificates, police reports, bank statements, each page another piece of a pattern I'd been too close to see. Miranda Hayes doesn't exist before 2020, Sarah began. No birth certificate, no driver's license history, no credit report. She appears fully formed the year she married your son. She slid 3 driver's license photos across the desk. Same woman, 3 different names. Vanessa Moore, married in Cleveland, 2017, divorced 2018. Her ex-husband filed a civil suit claiming she emptied their joint account $68,000 2 weeks before serving him papers. Case was settled out of court. Next photo. Jessica Palmer. This is where it gets serious. Sarah tapped an official document. Active arrest warrant out of Ohio issued February 2019. She's wanted for theft from Theodore and Ellen Kowalski, ages 73 and 69. $420,000 drained from their retirement accounts over 6 months. The Kowalskis lost their home. I felt my insurance adjuster brain kick in, calculating. That's at least $488,000 across 2 confirmed victims. 5 victims, Sarah corrected. I found 3 more. A widower in Tennessee, 2020. A couple in Georgia, 2022. Another elderly man in Charlotte, 2015. That one was before she refined her method. Dementia patient. She got him to change his will before his family caught on. She pulled out a map with colored pins. She moves every 18 to 24 months. Changes her name. Changes her story. Always targets men over 65, recently widowed or divorced. Always uses romance and trust as the entry point. And Kenneth Wallace? I asked. Sarah's expression darkened. Kenneth Wallace is Marcus Reeves, age 54, originally from Atlanta. He served 3 years in Georgia for real estate fraud. He's been investigated twice by the Georgia Attorney General's office for elder financial exploitation, both cases dropped due to lack of evidence. She pulled out surveillance photos. Kenneth Marcus meeting with Miranda at a Starbucks in Tennessee, 2020. They've worked together before. He provides the legal framework, the estate planning cover story. She provides the access to the victims. Diane leaned forward. This is a multi-state operation, Franklin. 5 confirmed victims, possibly more. Total damages likely exceed $2 million. This is federal jurisdiction now. We need to contact the FBI, Sarah added. They have a task force for exactly this kind of fraud. I sat back, my mind reeling. I'd known Miranda was lying. I'd known Kenneth was involved. But this was beyond anything I'd imagined. Tyler doesn't know, I said quietly. He's a victim too. I know, Diane said, and that's going to work in his favor. But we need to move fast. If Miranda suspects we're investigating, she'll disappear. She's done it before. What do we do? I asked. Tomorrow morning, we contact the FBI Charlotte field office, Diane said. I have a contact there, Lisa Moreno, White Collar Crimes Division. With this evidence, they'll open an investigation immediately. She closed the folder. In the meantime, you do nothing. Act normal. Don't confront her. Don't tell Tyler yet. We can't risk spooking her before the FBI is involved. I nodded, but my hands were shaking. 40 years investigating insurance fraud had taught me to spot patterns, to trust evidence over emotion. But this wasn't a claim file. This was my son's life. My family. As I stood to leave, Sarah handed me a final document. One more thing, she said. Marcus Reeves. His real name is Kenneth Marcus Wallace. He's been using variations of his own name this whole time. Diane met my eyes. They're confident. They think they're untouchable. I drove home as darkness fell over Charlotte Russell's kitchen light visible through the trees. I thought about the 5 victims before me, the families destroyed, the trust betrayed. Miranda or Vanessa or Jessica or whoever she really was had done this before. She would do it again. Unless we stopped her. Diane's call came on day 17, 4 days after our meeting with Sarah Mitchell. The FBI wants to meet with you, she said carefully. Tomorrow afternoon, I'll go with you. I'd known this was coming, but hearing those words made my hands shake. The FBI. This was real. What time? I asked. 2 o'clock. Their Charlotte field office. The FBI building on Microsoft Way looked ordinary modern glass and steel like any tech company. But the security was different. Metal detectors, ID verification, visitor badges that tracked our every movement. Agent Lisa Moreno met us on the 3rd floor. Mid-40s gray suit, sharp eyes that had seen too many lies. She led us to a conference room where a digital evidence board covered one wall. Our USB files, blown up, organized, connected with red lines to photos I'd never seen. Mr. Hayes, Miss Foster. Agent Moreno gestured to chairs. Thank you for coming. What you've uncovered is part of something we've been investigating for 18 months. 18 months. While I'd been mourning Catherine, they'd been building a case. Operation Golden Years, she continued. A criminal network targeting elderly Americans across the Southeast. We've identified 6 confirmed victims in 4 states. Total damages exceed $3.2 million. She clicked a remote. The screen shifted to surveillance photos Miranda, but not Miranda, with different men. Different cities, different years. The woman your son married is part of a 5-member organized crime ring. She's operated under multiple identities since 2015. Vanessa Moore in Ohio. Jessica Palmer in Cincinnati. Miranda Hayes here in Charlotte. Agent Moreno pulled up financial records. The pattern is consistent. She targets recently widowed or divorced men over 60 with assets exceeding $1 million. She establishes relationships through their adult children, usually sons. Marriage follows within 18 to 24 months. Another click. Kenneth Wallace appeared on screen. Her partner is Marcus Reeves, age 54. Criminal record includes fraud, forgery, conspiracy. He provides the legal infrastructure, estate planning powers of attorney trust modifications. While she gains emotional access, he handles the financial extraction. The screen showed a network diagram. 6 families, 6 names I didn't recognize. Lines connecting them all to the same 2 faces. Ohio 2017. Robert and Helen Wagner. $210,000 stolen. Agent Moreno's voice was clinical, but anger lurked underneath. Is Ohio 2019. Theodore Kowalski. $420,000. His wife died 3 months after he lost everything. My chest tightened. Tennessee 2020. Dennis Patterson. $380,000. Georgia 2022. The Hendersons. $570,000. Florida 2023. James Martinez. $650,000. Each number was a life destroyed, a family torn apart. The 6th victim was here in Charlotte 2024. Arthur Wilson. $490,000. He died of a heart attack 2 weeks after discovering the fraud. She paused. You're the 7th target, Mr. Hayes, and you're the first one who caught them before they could finish. How? I asked. How did you connect all this? A detective in Tennessee noticed similarities across elderly fraud cases. He contacted us. We started pulling threads, database matching financial patterns, surveillance footage from banks. She gestured to our USB. But we've never had evidence like this. Security footage, digital files, a laptop with her real communications. You've given us more in 2 weeks than we've gathered in 18 months. What's her real name? I asked. Agent Moreno exchanged glances with another agent. We know her identity, but we can't share that information, yet it's part of our operational security. When the time comes, you'll know exactly what to say. She opened a small case on the table. Inside was a device the size of a quarter. We need you to wear a wire. Call them. Tell them you've changed your mind, that you're ready to sign whatever they want. Get them in your house, get them talking. They'll suspect something, I said. Possibly. But they're invested. 4 years with your son. $625,000 in home equity alone. Over $1 million in total assets. They're close to a big payoff. They'll take the risk. I looked at Diane. She nodded once. Your son, Agent Moreno added. We've verified his story completely. The laptop discovery, the timeline, everything. He's a victim too. No charges will be filed against him. Relief washed through me. Tyler was innocent. The FBI confirmed it. We need 2 days to prepare, Agent Moreno said. Surveillance teams, tactical positioning, backup units. You'll make the call on day 19, evening meeting at your house. We'll be 2 blocks away listening to everything. She slid a thin folder across the table. Study this. It's your script questions to ask topics to bring up phrases that will get them talking. Practice until it feels natural. I opened the folder. Pages of dialogue, scenarios, contingencies. One more thing, Mr. Hayes. Agent Moreno's expression softened slightly. When this goes down, your son will be there. He'll see everything. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Tyler at 3 a.m. disheveled and crying. Tyler discovering Miranda's laptop. Tyler realizing the woman he loved was a lie. He deserves to see the truth, I said. Good. Agent Moreno stood. 48 hours. Then we end this. I left the FBI building at 4:30 with a wire device in my pocket and a script in my hand. Diane walked me to my car. You don't have to do this, she said. Yes, I do. I looked at the folder. 6 families didn't get justice. 6 families lost everything while these people moved on to the next victim. I'm doing this for them. I drove home as the sun set over Charlotte. In 48 hours, I'd faced the woman who'd tried to destroy my family. The woman who'd manipulated my son for 4 years. I didn't know her real name yet, but I would. You've just witnessed the climax. If you're still watching, drop a comment, sharing your reaction to Franklin's confrontation with Elena. A gentle reminder, the events you're hearing include creative storytelling choices that aren't factual. Feel free to exit now if this isn't what you expected. 2 days felt like 2 years. I practiced the script until the words felt natural. Memorized the questions Agent Moreno had written. Tested the wire device hidden under my shirt, so small I could barely feel it. But knowing the FBI was listening made it weigh like lead. Day 19 arrived with clear skies and cold wind. At 3 in the afternoon, I made the call. Miranda answered on the second ring. Franklin. Her voice was cautious. I've been thinking, I said, following the script, about what you and Kenneth said. About planning for the future. I paused. Let her hear the resignation in my voice. I'm ready to sign whatever documents you need. Silence. Then, that's wonderful, Franklin. I'm so glad you've come around. Too eager, too quick. Agent Moreno had been right. They couldn't resist. Can you come by tonight? I asked. 7 o'clock, bring the paperwork. Of course. Kenneth will want to be there too to make sure everything's proper. Fine. I kept my voice tired, defeated. Tyler should come. This affects his future too. We'll all be there, Miranda said. Her voice was warm, now confident. You're making the right choice, Franklin. I hung up and stared at my hands. They weren't shaking anymore. At 6:30, Agent Moreno's voice came through my earpiece, a tiny receiver they'd given me that morning. FBI surveillance van in position 2 blocks south. Tactical team staged at the neighbor's house. Russell Parker has been briefed and evacuated. We're ready when you are, Mr. Hayes. I looked around my living room, the same room where Catherine and I had celebrated 30 anniversaries, where Tyler had opened Christmas presents as a boy, where I'd confronted Kenneth Wallace 2 weeks ago. Tonight it would become a crime scene. I'm ready, I said quietly. At 7 o'clock, exactly, headlights swept across my front window. I watched through the curtains as Tyler's car pulled into the driveway. 3 people got out. Tyler looked nervous. Miranda looked confident. Kenneth Marcus looked like a man about to collect a paycheck. The doorbell rang. I opened it, playing the tired old man they expected to see. Come in. Tyler hugged me, whispered. Are you sure about this, Dad? I'm sure, I said. And I was. They settled into the living room. Kenneth spread documents across the coffee table, power of attorney forms, trust amendments, beneficiary changes, everything designed to transfer my assets into their control. This is straightforward, Kenneth said in his smooth estate planner voice. We're just protecting your interests, making sure Tyler's taken care of if anything happens. Miranda sat close to Tyler, her hand on his knee, playing the devoted daughter-in-law. I wondered how many times she'd sat like this with other families, other victims. Before I sign anything, I said slowly, I want to understand something, Miranda. She smiled. Of course, Franklin. What would you like to know? Tell me about your family, your real family, back in Tennessee. Her smile didn't waver. I've told you about them. My parents passed away when I was young. I don't have much family left. That's odd, I said, because when you talk about Knoxville, you don't have the accent. And when I mentioned Calhoun's restaurant, you didn't know what I was talking about. A flicker of something crossed her face. I've been away a long time. You lose the accent. Tyler looked confused. Miranda, what's he talking about? I pulled out my phone, opened the photos Jake had recovered from her laptop. Tyler found these pictures on your old computer. You with different families, different names. Kenneth stood abruptly. This is inappropriate. We came here in good faith. Sit down, Marcus, I said. He froze. What did you call me, Fartum? Marcus Reeves. That's your real name, isn't it? Not Kenneth Wallace. I looked at Miranda. And you? How many names have you used? Vanessa Moore in Ohio, Jessica Palmer in Cincinnati. Miranda's mask was cracking. Tyler pulled away from her, staring. What's going on? Tell him, I said to Miranda. Tell him the truth. Tell him about the 6 families before us. Tell him about the $2 million you've stolen. You're being paranoid, Miranda said, but her voice had changed. Harder, colder. Tyler, your father is confused. I know who you are, I said quietly, and then I spoke the name Agent Moreno had finally revealed to me this morning. Elena. The room went dead silent. Miranda Elena stared at me. All pretense gone. Who told you that name? Elena Voss. I continued. 37 years old, 10 known identities, 15 possible victims. You've been running this con since you were 23. Tyler stood up, backing away from her. Miranda, tell him he's wrong. Please tell him he's wrong. Elena looked at Tyler, and for a moment something almost human crossed her face. Then it vanished. She bolted for the front door. She made it 3 steps before the door burst open. FBI, hands up. Agent Moreno and 4 other agents flooded into my living room, weapons drawn. Elena froze. Hands raised, her face twisted with rage and calculation. Marcus ran for the back door. He didn't make it far. 2 agents tackled him in my kitchen. I heard him hit the floor hard, heard the metallic click of handcuffs. "Elena Voss, you're under arrest," Agent Moreno said, her voice calm and professional. "Fraud, conspiracy, theft, crossing state lines to commit felony crimes." As they cuffed her, Elena looked back at me. Not angry, not scared, just cold, empty, like she was already planning her next move, her next victim, her next name. Tyler stood in the middle of my living room, watching the woman he loved being led away in handcuffs. Then he turned to me. "Dad!" His voice broke. "Did you know this whole time, did you know?" I wanted to tell him about the investigation, about the FBI, about the 6 families who'd lost everything. But all I could see was my son's face, the trust draining out of it, replaced by betrayal. "Did you know?" he asked again, and his voice cracked like he was 12 years old, and I'd just told him his mother was dying. I opened my mouth, but Agent Moreno spoke first. "Your father saved your life, son, and probably 6 more families after you." Tyler looked at me, then at Elena being pushed into an FBI vehicle outside, then back at me. He couldn't finish. He walked out the door and didn't look back. I stood in my living room surrounded by FBI agents documenting the scene and listened to my son's car pull away. We'd caught them. We'd stopped them. But watching Tyler leave, I wasn't sure we'd won anything at all. The police lights painted my living room in alternating red and blue. Through the window, I watched FBI agents loading evidence boxes into vans. Neighbors stood on their porches trying to understand what had just happened. Tyler sat on the couch where Elena had sat an hour ago. He hadn't moved since Agent Moreno asked him to stay. I wanted to sit beside him, put my arm around him like I had when he was 12 and Catherine first got sick. But I didn't know if he'd let me. Agent Moreno came back inside her professional mask, softened slightly. "Tyler, I need to ask you some questions. For the record, you're not under investigation. You're a witness and a victim, but we need your statement." Tyler nodded without looking up. "Okay." She sat across from him, tablet in hand. "When did you first meet the woman you knew as Miranda Hayes?" 4 years ago. Tyler's voice was flat hollow. "October 2020. Church charity event. St. Mark's downtown. She was volunteering at the food drive." I'd forgotten about that. Tyler had started going to St. Mark's after Catherine died, looking for community, looking for something to fill the emptiness. Elena had been looking too, for her next victim. "She seemed perfect," Tyler continued. "Kind, funny. She asked about my family, seemed genuinely interested in my life. We started getting coffee after volunteer shifts, then dinners. It felt natural. It felt real." Agent Moreno typed notes. "When did she meet your father?" 6 months later, April 2021. I'd been wanting them to meet, but she kept saying she was nervous, wanted to wait until the time was right. Tyler laughed bitterly. "Now I know she was just planning, calculating when to make her move." "What about Kenneth Wallace, Marcus Reeves?" Agent Moreno asked. "Miranda introduced us about a year ago, said he was a friend's father, an estate planning expert. After Dad's health scare last year." Tyler glanced at me. I'd had a false alarm with chest pains. Nothing serious, but it had scared us both. Miranda suggested Dad needed to plan for the future. Kenneth seemed legitimate, professional. "They usually do," Agent Moreno said quietly. "Tyler, I need you to understand something. Elena Voss is a professional. She's been doing this for over a decade. Everything about your relationship was engineered. The charity event wasn't coincidence, they researched their targets. Your father was recently widowed, financially stable in his mid-60s. You were his only child, working as a teacher, good-hearted. You were the perfect access point. Tyler's hands started shaking. 4 years. 4 years of my life. I was going to... We talked about having kids, about buying a house together. His voice broke. Was any of it real? No, Agent Moreno said, and I was grateful for her honesty. I'm sorry, Tyler, but no. Elena Voss doesn't form real relationships. She forms strategic ones. Tyler stood, abruptly walked to the window. I could see his reflection in the glass, my son trying not to fall apart. Tyler. Agent Moreno continued gently. We've reviewed her phone and computer. The texts she sent you, the emails, the photos, they were all part of a script. We found similar message templates on her laptop. Same phrases sent to previous victims' family members. Same spontaneous date ideas. Same timeline. Stop. Tyler's voice was barely a whisper. Please stop. Agent Moreno closed her tablet. You're a victim in this case, Tyler, not an accomplice. You'll need to testify when this goes to trial, but you're not facing any charges. I want to be very clear about that. Tyler turned around. I helped them. I gave her access to Dad. I encouraged him to meet with Kenneth. I signed papers that you believed were legitimate. Agent Moreno interrupted. You had no knowledge of their criminal intent. You were manipulated by professionals who've done this successfully 6 times before. The difference is, your father caught them. You helped him catch them, whether you realized it or not. After Agent Moreno left with her team after the last FB, Ivan pulled away, and the neighbors finally went inside. It was just Tyler and me in the quiet house. He stood by the fireplace, staring at a photo from his college graduation. Catherine and I, flanking him, all 3 of us, smiling at a future that had seemed so certain. I almost cost us everything, he said finally. The house, your savings, everything Mom worked for. You didn't know, I said. I should have known. There were signs, small things that didn't add up. But I ignored them because I wanted it to be real. I wanted to believe someone could love me like that. He looked at me, tears streaming down his face. How do I trust anyone again? How do I trust myself? I crossed the room, pulled him into a hug like I hadn't done since he was a boy. He collapsed against me, and I felt him sob deep, wrenching sounds that broke my heart more than anything Elena Voss had done. One step at a time, I whispered. We'll figure it out together. We stood there a long time, my son grieving a relationship that had never existed, me holding him, grateful he was alive and free, and still mine. Finally, Tyler pulled back, wiped his face. I don't want to go home tonight. To the apartment. Everything there. She picked out the furniture, the dishes, the damn curtains. Stay here, I said immediately. Your room's the same. He looked surprised. You kept it. Of course I kept it. I always hoped you'd come back someday. I managed a small smile, though I imagined better circumstances. Tyler almost laughed. Almost. Can I just sleep here tonight? I don't want to think anymore. Stay as long as you need. I watched him climb the stairs to his old room, the room with his high school baseball trophies, and the glow-in-the-dark stars Catherine had helped him stick to the ceiling when he was 8. Downstairs, I sat in my living room alone with the silence. We'd stopped Elena Voss. We'd caught the criminals. We'd saved $625,000 and probably saved future victims. But looking at the empty space where my son had sat broken and betrayed, I couldn't shake the feeling that we'd lost something too. Something that might take longer than one night to rebuild. 6 weeks after the arrest, Tyler and I walked into the federal courthouse together. The building was imposing all marble columns and security checkpoints. Media vans lined the street outside. Agent Moreno had warned us this would be public. Operation Golden Years had become national news. Elderly fraud ring busted, the headlines read. Romance scammer faces federal charges. Tyler wore the suit Catherine had bought him for job interviews 5 years ago. It hung a little loose now he'd lost weight in the weeks since Elena's arrest. "You ready?" I asked as we approached the metal detectors. He nodded. "Let's get this over with." The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Elena sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, her hair pulled back, no makeup. She looked ordinary. That was the scariest part, how ordinary she looked. Marcus Reeves wasn't there. He'd taken a plea deal 3 weeks earlier, agreeing to testify against Elena in exchange for a reduced sentence. 7 years instead of 15. Agent Moreno said his cooperation had been valuable names, methods, bank accounts they hadn't known about. The prosecution called me first. I took the stand, raised my right hand, swore to tell the truth. The prosecutor, a woman named Jennifer Walsh, walked me through everything. The security footage, the missing files, the laptop discovery, the USB evidence. "Mr. Hayes, in your 40 years as an insurance adjuster, how many fraud cases did you investigate?" "Hundreds," I said. "Maybe over 1,000. In your professional opinion, was this fraud sophisticated?" "Extremely. The documentation was flawless. The legal framework was sound. If I hadn't caught them in the act, they would have succeeded." I kept my voice steady, clinical. Treated it like any other case I'd worked. But when the prosecutor showed the jury photos of the 6 previous victims' elderly faces, some no longer alive, I had to pause. "These people trusted her," I said. "Just like my son did." Elena's lawyer tried to rattle me on cross-examination, suggested I'd misunderstood innocent actions, that I'd been paranoid. I just looked at him. "I have 40 years of experience identifying fraud," I said. This was fraud. Tyler testified next. Watching him walk to the stand, seeing him raise his hand and swear that oath, I'd never been prouder or more heartbroken. The prosecutor was gentle with him. "Tyler, when did you first suspect something was wrong?" "Not until the end," Tyler said quietly. "I found the laptop by accident. Even then I wanted to believe there was an explanation. I loved her. I thought she loved me." "Did the defendant ever give you any indication that your relationship wasn't genuine?" "No. She was perfect. Every birthday, every anniversary, every moment felt real. That's what made it work. I never suspected because there was nothing to suspect. She was that good." The defense attorney tried to suggest Tyler had known about the fraud, had been complicit. Tyler just looked at Elena. "I would have died for her," he said. "I was planning to propose next month. I'd bought a ring." His voice broke. "I was going to ask my dad for his blessing, and the whole time she was planning to rob him." Elena didn't react, just sat there expressionless. 2 other victims testified via video link. A widow from Ohio whose husband had died 3 months after losing everything. A man from Georgia who'd lost his deceased wife's life insurance payout. They all told the same story. The perfect relationship. The trusted advisor. The gradual transfer of assets. The devastating discovery. The prosecution presented financial records showing the pattern. Elena and Marcus had operated in 6 states over 9 years. 7 victims, over $3 million stolen. This wasn't desperation, Jennifer Walsh told the jury in closing arguments. This wasn't survival. This was professional, calculated predation. The defendant targeted grieving, vulnerable people and destroyed their lives. For money. The defense tried to paint Elena as a troubled woman from a difficult background, someone who'd made mistakes, but deserved compassion. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they came back, Elena stood emotionless as the forewoman read the verdict. Count 1, wire fraud. Guilty. Count 2, conspiracy to commit fraud. Guilty. Count 3, identity theft. Guilty. Guilty on all 17 counts. The sentencing came a week later. Tyler and I returned to the courthouse, sat in the same seats, watched Elena stand before the judge. Mrs. Voss. The judge said, "You have shown no remorse for your actions. You have destroyed families, stolen life savings, contributed to the deaths of at least 2 victims. You are a danger to society." 15 years. Federal prison. No possibility of parole for at least 12 years. As the marshals led Elena away, she turned and looked directly at Tyler. Not angry, not sad, just empty, like he'd never mattered at all. Tyler didn't look away this time. He held her gaze until she disappeared through the door. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Microphones, cameras, questions shouted from every direction. I stopped at the top of the steps, Tyler beside me. "My son and I are still standing together," I said simply. "That's all we have to say." Tyler's hand found mine as we walked down the steps, squeezed once. We drove home in silence, but it was a different silence than 6 weeks ago. Not broken, just quiet. Justice had been served. The predator was caged. Spring came to Charlotte 3 months after the trial. The dogwoods bloomed white and pink along my street. Russell's roses started budding. The air smelled like fresh grass and possibility instead of courtroom recycled air and fear. Tyler came for dinner every Wednesday. It started the week after sentencing. He'd shown up at 6 with takeout Chinese and asked if he could stay. Now it was routine. Sometimes we cooked together. Sometimes we ordered pizza. Sometimes we just sat in comfortable silence, eating and watching whatever game was on. "Dad," he said one Wednesday in April, passing me the mashed potatoes I'd made from Catherine's recipe. "My therapist says I'm making progress." "Yeah." "She says I'm learning to separate what was real from what was manipulation. The feelings I had, those were real. The person I felt them for wasn't." He paused. "Does that make sense?" "It does," I said. The love was real even if she wasn't. Tyler had moved into a new apartment in February. 1 bedroom, nothing fancy, but it was his. No furniture Elena had picked. No memories of her in every room. He was rebuilding from scratch, and I was proud of him for that. Diane had suggested I join a support group for elder fraud victims. I'd resisted at first. I wasn't a victim, I'd caught them, but she'd insisted. "You're not just processing what they tried to do," she'd said. "You're processing what they did to your son." The group met Tuesday nights at a community center in South Charlotte. 8 of us, ages 62 to 83. Different stories, same pattern. Trusted the wrong person. Lost savings. Lost dignity. Lost faith in humanity. A woman named Dorothy had lost her late husband's life insurance to a financial advisor she'd known for 20 years. He'd been stealing from her for a decade. "I feel so stupid," she said the first night I attended. "You're not stupid," I'd told her. "You're human. They count on that." By March, I was co-leading the group with a social worker. Sharing my story helped. Listening to theirs helped more. We weren't just victims. We were survivors, teaching each other how to survive. Russell still came by every morning for coffee. Rain or shine, 7:15 like clockwork. "You're looking better," he said one April morning. "Feeling better," I admitted. "Tyler, better too. We had dinner last night, laughed at a stupid movie. First time we've really laughed since—" I didn't need to finish. Russell nodded. "Healing takes time. You're both doing the work." Jake Martinez had become a friend too. He'd upgraded my security system, new cameras, better encryption alerts, sent directly to my phone and his. Refused to charge me for labor. "You helped catch criminals who've been operating for a decade," he'd said. "This is the least I can do." We grabbed lunch sometimes. He taught me about digital security. I taught him about classic cars. It was normal. Good. In late April, Tyler and I visited Catherine's grave together. I went every month, but this was Tyler's first time since the funeral. We stood in front of her headstone, simple granite, her name, her dates, beloved wife and mother. Tyler knelt down, touched the stone. "Hey, Mom." I gave him space, stood back under the oak tree that shaded her plot. "I messed up pretty bad," Tyler said to the stone. "Fell in love with someone who was using me to hurt Dad. Almost cost us everything." His voice broke. "I wish you could see who I'm becoming now. Who Dad helped me become." I stepped forward, put my hand on his shoulder. "She knows, son. She always knew the man you'd be." Tyler looked up at me, tears on his face. "You really think so?" "I know so." We stayed until the sun started setting, talking to Catherine about everything we'd been through. Somehow it helped. In May, Tyler helped me set up real estate planning. Diane supervised this time proper documentation, proper witnesses, proper safeguards. "No power of attorney," Diane said firmly. "Not until you're actually incapacitated and a court appoints a guardian." "Works for me," I said. Tyler laughed a real laugh. "Mom would have liked Diane." "Mom would have hired her years ago." I agreed. We planned Thanksgiving. 6 months away, but we needed something to look forward to. Tyler's idea, just us, Russell, maybe Jake and his family. Small, safe, ours. Normal life crept back in. We fixed the back fence together, watched Panthers games on Sundays, argued about whether I needed a new roof. I did. Tyler was right. My insurance career had taught me how to spot fraud. My son had taught me how to forgive both him and myself. One evening in late May, as Tyler helped me load the dishwasher after Wednesday dinner, he asked, "Will you ever trust anyone again?" I dried a plate, thought about it. "I trust you. I trust Russell. I trust Diane and Jake and Agent Moreno. I trust the people who've earned it. But strangers, I'm more careful now. But being careful isn't the same as being closed off." I looked at him. "I trust that life gives us second chances. Catherine was mine. You getting free of Elena was yours." Tyler smiled, a real smile, the kind I hadn't seen in months. "Second chances," he repeated. I like that. Outside, the dogwoods were in full bloom. Spring in Charlotte. A new season. A new start. 1 year after the arrest, I sat at Catherine's old desk with her journal open in front of me. She'd kept it for 30 years, recipes, garden notes, thoughts about Tyler growing up. After she died, I couldn't bring myself to read it. Now I was writing in it, adding my own chapter to hers. Dear Catherine, it's been a year. A year since I discovered our son was being used. A year since I fought back. You would have been proud of how Tyler handled it. How we're healing together. I'm writing this for people like me. People who might be facing what I faced. Because I learned something, age doesn't make us helpless. It makes us dangerous if we choose to be. I looked out the window at Russell watering his roses. thought about everything that had brought me here. Then I kept writing. To anyone reading this who's facing what I faced, age is not weakness. Every year you've lived has taught you something. You know how to read people. You know when something feels wrong. Trust that knowledge. Red flags to watch for: someone tries to isolate you from family or friends. They push you to make financial decisions quickly. They discourage you from getting second opinions. They get angry when you ask questions. Trust, but verify. Even with family, especially with family. Love doesn't mean blind trust. If someone who claims to love you gets angry when you ask questions, that's telling you something. Community is your fortress. I survived because of Russell Parker, Jake Martinez, Diane Foster. People who noticed when things didn't add up and spoke up. Build your fortress. Stay connected. Predators count on isolation. Don't be alone. Technology is on your side. A $150 security camera saved me $600,000. Install cameras. Keep digital records. Back up everything. Document everything. The legal system works if you act. I gathered evidence. I hired a lawyer. I contacted the FBI. I fought back. Don't wait. Know your rights. You can revoke power of attorney at any time. You can refuse financial advice. You can demand to see all documents before signing. You can bring a trusted person to any meeting. You can change beneficiaries or estate plans if you're mentally competent. Document everything. Keep a journal. Save emails. Screenshot texts. Record conversations where legal. Create a paper trail. That evidence saved me. Ask for help. Call Adult Protective Services. Contact your local area agency on aging. Reach out to elder law attorneys. Most offer free consultations. You don't have to fight alone. If you're thinking, I'm too old to understand technology, or I'm too old to fight back, stop. I'm 67. I learned security cameras, digital evidence, legal systems I'd never dealt with before. If I can do it, you can. Your age is your weapon. Use it. A year after the arrest. Here's my life. Tyler is dating Sarah, a fourth-grade teacher. They met at a support group Tyler volunteers at for adult children affected by parental fraud. He's turning his pain into purpose. He brought her to meet me 2 months ago, told her everything on the first date. No secrets. She stayed. That's how I knew she might be real. I took my first trip since Catherine died. Asheville, North Carolina. 3 days with Russell. Hiked easy trails, ate too much barbecue, proved to myself I could still move forward. I speak at senior centers now. Protecting yourself from financial fraud. Started with 1 talk, now I do 2 a month. I've helped 3 people avoid scams. Dorothy from my support group referred her neighbor to me, someone pressuring her to sign over her house. We stopped it cold. Agent Moreno told me Elena's arrest led to 4 more arrests in the ring. 11 victims total. Over $4 million in attempted fraud. We did that, Tyler and I, with help from good people. Thanksgiving was 2 weeks ago. My dining room table, designed for 6, somehow fit 10. Tyler and Sarah came early to help cook. Russell brought pecan pie. Jordan came with his girlfriend. Diane arrived with wine. Jake brought his wife and 2 kids who taught me how to use TikTok. We laughed too loud, ate too much, argued about football. Sarah fit right in, helping Tyler carve the turkey. This wasn't the family Catherine and I planned. But they were mine. Chosen and earned. Before dinner, I raised my glass. To Catherine, who taught me what real love looks like. Tyler, to second chances. Russell, to people who give a damn. Jake, to security cameras. Everyone laughed. Diane, to justice. Sarah, to healing. To all of it, I finished. To family we choose. To fighting back. To still being here. Later, cleaning up, Tyler stood beside me at the sink. You ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't caught them? Every day, I admitted. But I did catch them. That's what matters. Because you fought back. Because we fought back, I corrected. Together. He smiled, the real smile I'd been seeing more often. Mom would have been proud. She is, I said. Here's what I want you to understand. Elena Voss and Marcus Reeves thought I was an easy target. 67 years old. Recently widowed, grieving, alone. They were wrong. I wasn't alone. I had Russell. I had community. I had 40 years of professional experience that taught me to question, to investigate, to trust my instincts. I wasn't helpless. I had resources. I had legal rights. I had technology. I wasn't too old. I was exactly the right age, old enough to have wisdom, young enough to fight. They underestimated me. That was their mistake. If you see yourself in this story, you are not alone. There are resources, support groups, legal aid, people who will help you fight. You are not helpless. You have rights. You have legal protections. You have the power to say no, to ask questions, to walk away. You are not too old to fight. Every year you've lived has made you stronger. You've survived lost change challenges. You can survive this too. Your voice matters. When you speak up, you protect not just yourself, but the next person they would have targeted. Your instincts are valid. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't let anyone tell you you're being paranoid. Trust yourself. Community exists. Call your local area agency on aging. Contact Adult Protective Services. Find a support group. Build your fortress. Legal help is available. Elder law attorneys exist for situations like this. Many offer free consultations. You don't need money to get help. Technology can protect you. Security cameras, digital documentation, cloud storage. These tools are accessible and affordable. Fighting back is possible. I did it. Dorothy did it. 3 other people I've helped did it. You can too. You are stronger than they think. You survived wars, recessions, tragedies. You raised families, built careers. That strength doesn't disappear at 65 or 70 or 80. It's still there. Use it. Here's what I'm asking you to do. Share this story. If you know someone who might need to hear it, an elderly parent, a friend, a neighbor, send it to them. Every share is a warning to predators. Every share is hope to a victim. Comment below. Tell me where you're listening from. What resonated with you? Let's build a community right here. No one should face this alone. Subscribe. More stories like this exist. More people need to share their experiences. Every subscription says we're watching, we're listening, we won't be silent. Take action if you're facing financial exploitation. Right now, document everything starting today. Contact an elder law attorney, call Adult Protective Services, install security cameras. Tell someone you trust, don't wait. Act. Every comment is solidarity with survivors. Every share is a message to predators, we see you. Every subscription says we won't be quiet anymore. I'm writing this in Catherine's journal because she would have wanted me to share what I learned. She would have wanted me to help others avoid what we went through. So here it is. My story. Our story. Tyler's and mine, and Catherine's and Russell's and everyone who helped us fight back. To every Franklin out there, you have people. You have power. You have rights. You have strength. Use them. Fight back. You're not done yet. None of us are. Looking back at my family story, I realize I made a mistake many widowers make. I confused loneliness with love and gratitude with trust. When Catherine died, I was so desperate for my son to be happy that I ignored every warning sign. Don't be like I was. Don't let grief make you blind. This family story taught me that the people closest to you can hurt you the most, not because they're strangers, but because you've given them the keys, literally and figuratively. Tyler had my house key, my financial power of attorney, and my unconditional trust. Miranda had something worse, my desperate need to believe our family was whole again. My dad's revenge wasn't about anger. It was about protecting what Catherine and I built together. When I finally stood up to them, when I gathered evidence and involved the FBI, I wasn't just saving my money. I was honoring my wife's memory and refusing to be a victim in my own home. The Bible says, "The righteous cry out, and the Lord hears them. He delivers them from all their troubles." Psalm 34:17. God didn't abandon me in my darkest hour. He gave me Russell's friendship, Jake's expertise, and the courage to investigate my own family. Here's what I learned. Dad revenge means fighting back with evidence, not emotion. It means trusting your instincts when something feels wrong. It means documentation, verification, and never signing anything without reading it twice. Elder fraud is real, and it often comes wearing the face of someone you love. To anyone reading this family story, if papers are moved, if questions feel invasive, if stories don't add up, trust your gut. You're not paranoid. You're not too old to understand. You're just paying attention. And sometimes paying attention saves your life. Thank you for walking this journey with me to the very end. Drop a comment, sharing your thoughts. What would you have done if you found yourself in Franklin's position, discovering your own family was betraying you? I genuinely want to hear your perspective. If this story resonated with you emotionally, please consider subscribing so you won't miss future videos. A quick note: while inspired by real elder fraud cases and social issues affecting seniors, certain narrative elements have been dramatized for storytelling purposes. If this content isn't your preference, feel free to explore other videos that better suit your interests.